And it says we are live again.
Oh, one more time.
One more Tuesday trip around the sun.
Jolly good.
Welcome, folks, to
Hi.
TeaFlix. Happy Tuesday. Except right off the top, I must say, if you have any spare time or spare dollars, watch the crawl across the bottom and say a prayer for the people of Jamaica and the Caribbean. Melissa is doing her damage, and all of our thoughts from today's broadcasts are going to be with those poor folks down there. So say a prayer, send your money. World Central Kitchen, Red Cross, and one of the Carter Cash family's favorite charities is streaming across the bottom. So without further ado, let me introduce today's guest. John Carter Cash, which we're absolutely thrilled about, is a Grammy-winning record and film producer, writer-director, singer-songwriter, and author whose creative work extends far beyond the studio. The grandson of Maybelle Carter and the only child of Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash, who, by the way, congratulations, was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame just last weekend. He actively preserves and advances his family's musical legacy. He began producing with June's Grammy-winning Press On in 1999. Then he worked with Rick Rubin as an associate producer on Johnny Cash's American 3 and American 4, the latter earning 3 CMA Awards. He produced June's Wildwood Flower, which won a Grammy in 2003, and the 3-time nominated Unbroken Circle, the musical heritage of the Carter family. His other credits include, I'm wondering when this man sleeps.
I know.
His other credits include Marty Stewart's Badlands, Billy Joe Shaver's Everybody's Brother, which was also Grammy nominated, and extensive work with Loretta Lynn, including the acclaimed Grammy-nominated Full Circle in 2016. In 2024, he won a Grammy for Best Arrangement, Instrumental or A Cappella for Folsom Prison Blues with our friends, the String Revolution, and Tommy Emmanuel, which was all recorded at his fabulous legendary place, Cash Cabin in Hendersonville. Across 2 decades, John has produced hundreds of recordings for artists such as Ralph Stanley, Elvis Costello, Emmylou Harris, Willie Nelson, Sheryl Crow, Mavis Staples, Vince Gill, and John Prine, to name a few. He has 2 Grammys and produced 5 additional Grammy-winning records. As an artist, his albums include Bitter Harvest, The Family Secret, We Must Believe in Magic, and the Cash Collective's Hey Crow from 2020. But what we're going to concentrate on today, his latest adventure, is called Pineapple John, which was released just in September of 2025. He's also authored children's books, the biographies Anchored in Love and House of Cash, the novel Lupus Rex, and, as if that weren't enough, the Cash and Carter Family Cookbook. He owns Cash Cabin Enterprises in Hendersonville, Tennessee, producing at the historic Cash Cabin studio where his father, Johnny, recorded hundreds of songs. He's married to his beautiful wife, entertainer, author Anna Christina Cash, and is the father of 5. So without further ado, and confetti drops from the ceiling, ladies and gentlemen, John Carter Cash, welcome.
There you are.
There we are. Jolly good.
What happened? I don't know. It wasn't. I don't think it was me that time.
I think it was just the voodoo queen of New Orleans freezing the internet.
Yeah, some reason the little rolling rainbow started happening in my world, but the screen was still there with all the other stuff. So I don't know. It's weird.
Anyway, here we are, and we were just talking about your time down in Jamaica and asking people to pray and spend money, but starting back at the very beginning. I'll let Ange go first.
Yes. So growing up as the only child of Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash, what's the most important lesson that you learned from your parents and about music and about life in general?
Oh, it's pretty simple. I mean, just follow your heart and do what you love, and don't go down any other path. Just follow what's in your heart. And they never pushed me even to do music. They did. They put me on stage and they taught me a lot about music here and there, but they always wanted me to do what I loved in life. And that's really what it is. Don't be afraid to pursue your dreams, but don't beat yourself up about it either. Just, and they were a little passive. Maybe they could have even been a little tougher sometimes, but they were very loving. And I think that was it. They supported what the dream was, whatever your dream was. And so that's really what they taught me.
Well, it worked. It paid off.
Well, my question, when I was doing my research over the weekend, I was wondering, did you ever think you wanted to be a veterinarian, given the fact you grew up on a sort of a personal zoo in Hendersonville? I mean, you grew up around buffalo, fallow deer, black buffalo. wild boars and the infamous ostriches, including the violet walrus.
Yeah.
Did you ever think of a career with animals, or was it just always music for you?
Oh, I thought of all kinds of careers. Career as a fisherman, thought about, getting into scuba diving. Oh man, I've done all kinds of things. I've I don't know. I wanted to be a sheep farmer at one point, but I don't know. Music's really where I found my joy, and I think that's it. I wanted to be a performer for a while, a stage performer, and wanted to, be an artist. But I think that sort of that dream was sort of replaced when I discovered the joy of music production and creating music in the studio, and that's really what most of all my projects are about. Whether I don't necessarily want to go on the road and travel and perform and do music. I do enjoy performing, but really my joy is making music in the studio. And so once I found that, I stayed with it.
Yeah. I mean, life on the road is terribly hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's all beer and Skittles, but it's no way. Yeah.
Beer and Skittles. I love that.
Beer and Skittles. That's a Liverpool expression.
And we don't mean the sugary sweet Skittles. We mean actual like bowling pins.
Bear. I thought you said bears first. I was bears and Skittles. I was like,
well, that too, if you like.
Back to the animals. We've had bears breaking in trash cans around here. It's been crazy.
Oh no, well, I guess so. That's California.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
well, but we didn't have buffalo and ostriches. That's for sure.
Yeah, my dad had that dream of having that zoo, and so he put a 40-acre zoo across the street. He had black buck antelope and fallow deer and axis deer, rhea, emu, ostriches, buffalo, wild Russian boar. Had all these animals. It was crazy. Across the street from his house.
Oh, that's
not just my suggestion
like
too.
John Cleese at his ranch up in Montecito. Yeah.
John Cleese from Monty Python. He doesn't have boar, but he has ostriches and an apiary and an aviary and
does he really? Wow.
Llamas he loves.
He's got llamas and all.
Isn't that something? I didn't know that. Yeah, I love John Cleese. I absolutely adore John Cleese.
80-something birthday yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, was it really?
We built an original website years ago.
Yeah. He's one of the funniest men alive.
He is, sure. But he's also very serious.
Oh, yeah, no, he's very educated. Yeah, he knows what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, you have to have a background in something to be able to, like you said, follow your passion, right? So you obviously grew up with this animal education that was kind of thrust upon you and, chose music. But it also, I think, when you have a diverse background like you have, it builds empathy, doesn't it? Because you don't just see yourself as the center of the cake, right?
No. Yeah. I've seen a lot of different life. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Africa, doing missionary excursions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I've done a lot of different stuff through life. And I think it gives you more of a broader view, of what the real story is. And I think the beginning of understanding is realizing I don't know very much. I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you Cash men certainly like to travel. Before fame, your father, Johnny Cash, served in the U.S. Air Force in Germany, right, as a Morse code intercept operator. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to know, is it myth or is it true? Because he's often credited with being the first person to pick up news of Stalin's death over Soviet traffic.
That and when the Russians broke the sound barrier in an aircraft, he picked up the news of that.
Wow.
Yeah, he could intercept that Morse code just so fast. He always knew how to do it. It's like he never forgot how to read Morse code. He tried to teach me to when I was young. He actually drew out I still have the little sheet that he drew it out with the whole Morse alphabet.
Yes.
But I never, I was too distracted to learn much of anything unless it had to do with girls or guitars.
That's the ... dash, right? Morse code.
Yeah.
Years ago, Angie bought me this bracelet for Christmas. You can't but it's dots and dashes. And if anybody out there reads Morse code,
what does it say?
It says F off.
Oh, does it? I thought it said, my name is Ruth. I live at 452 Greenway Park.
It's about sex and travel.
Exactly. If you like, do you
Yeah,
like sex?
yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah, I'm writing a book about sex and travel. Travel. It's called F off. I like it.
Well, you can use that one for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of writing books.
Yeah, I'm very curious about, you've written about all sorts of things, and now a cookbook.
Yeah.
What on earth led you into that? Are you?
I love food. That what led me into learning to love cooking.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've cooked my whole life. I've cooked since I was probably 10 years old. I would always go in my parents were on the road and they were at some fancy restaurant. They'd ask the chef if I could go in the back and watch him cook. And then I'd learned a few different dishes from chefs in Tennessee. And then my parents had an Italian lady that worked for them that taught me how to make lasagna and a good tomato sauce and the whole deal. And so I got into cooking, and I still cook a lot. My wife's a great cook, and I've learned some things from her and from her mother. So my cookbook's very diverse. It's full of Southern dishes, but there's world cuisine in there also. And it comes from having cooked my whole life. I'm also the short order cook for the most part for my family around the house. It's time for dinner. It's time for me to cook. I'm the one who cooks.
There you go. That'll work.
Yeah.
So what I really want to talk about today, obviously, is more in depth, is about Pineapple John, which recently dropped. The single obviously dropped in September, but the album dropped on 10/10, which is a lucky date, like 11/11, on Avondale through the Orchard. Now it's structured like a cinematic narrative, right? It's rich in its storytelling. It's got emotional depth. I mean, it explores all kinds of themes like love and loss and redemption and self-discovery. You and Trey Cole produced it, and character serves as a thread throughout the collection. Where did Pineapple John come from?
I mean, coronavirus was upon us, and I was at home like the rest of the world. And my son Jack and I were driving around one day, and he started beating on the dashboard, and I started just humming along, and I said, Pineapple John. My friends used to call me Colonel Pineapple sometimes. And so I just started going, Pineapple John. And then that's where the song came from. And from that point, it just continued to grow in my head, the whole concept. And I think pretty early on, I had this vision that he was a washed up songwriter, and that, he was on the beach and, down in Florida or Jamaica or wherever it was. And that he would have been chasing a dream of a girl that he never got, and all this, and I think there are parts of Pineapple John that are tied in with me, maybe some of it, but not really. I think he's even more washed up than I ever was. And I think he's a tragic character, but I think in the same time he finds a lot of redemption on the path through the album. There's a lot of redemption that he stumbles upon, and there's moments of confusion and moments of great clarity, in the album about equal measure. So, but yeah, I think we wrote most of the songs. I had an idea for most all of the songs, but I wanted to work with my friends as much as I could, as much as they were willing to come see me. And so I'd have one friend over at a time or whatever, and I would write the songs. And so over a period of about 3 or 4 weeks, all the songs were written.
Wow, gosh.
And then, and that was mostly done. And of course, we didn't, past 2 years that the album was done. So, even though we began some of the tracking back then, but yeah, it's been a real journey. This album has been, and I think it's like, I think before my other records that I've put out before, it's like I go back and look at them now. I'm almost like, did you purposefully make this as diverse and as inaccessible as you did? Right. And I think maybe I did. I was like, no, I don't care. I'm going to make this so scattered and everything, and I don't care. And so my other records that I've done, they're not as cohesive.
Rebellious.
Avant-garde.
And I think Pineapple John is a cohesive work. It really, it's sort of, it's a narrative. It tells a story without it being written. It's written in the melody and the movement of the music. So,
Yeah, and I love the fact that kind of storytelling album is coming up. It's what I grew up on concept albums, right? My
Really?
husband, Mark. Yeah, my husband.
I'm just joking. I know. I'm sure you did. I did too.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's in our blood, right?
Yeah, that's right. Kind of.
Yeah.
My husband Martin's been working 10 years now on his musical project Geist, and he's got a protagonist called Martin Cole, and it's the story of every man. It's the first album was Book of Mirrors and then Book of Shadows, and now the guy goes through the shadows. Now he's working on Book of Light, and I love the fact that people like yourself and John Lomax, they're bringing back this narrative and this character that guides you through the music and the feelings and the lyrics, and it has a purpose. It has a beginning, middle, and end. It's like a musical book, right? When you actually link it all together, you feel like you know this character at the end of the record.
Yeah, and it's I mean, to me, it just makes sense that there be more albums like this, and that people get back to sitting and listening to a whole album. I mean, we haven't given up movies, right? I mean, we can sit and watch a film for 3 hours and enjoy it, and becoming immersed in that other world. And so, to me, it's like listening to an album is the same thing. My 4-year-old son, James, loves record players. He's got 3 record players. He operates them himself. If he met you, the first thing he would say is, "Come here, let me show you my records." And he would bring you in, and he would show you his albums, and he would show you his different record players that he's so proud of. And he would pull out his record, and he will sit and listen. He loves Pineapple John. He likes side 3. For some reason, that's the side he wants to listen to over and over. But he'll sit and listen to a whole record all the way through, and he'll listen to the first side. I'll sit and watch him. "How you doing, James?" He was listening to my records. And he'll sit and listen to one side, and then he'll turn it over and fix the little thing and listen to it himself. If he can do that, then I think our short attention span world can put a little energy back into records and find such great joy in them.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's the bite-sized pieces, isn't it? But it comes from the old days of the record company. They'd want to release an album because it was, $10, $12, but they'd have to put something out to radio, and radio would seldom play a whole record. So they made these things called singles, which then, unfortunately got us all hooked on the attention span theater thing. And then along came iTunes, and you didn't have to buy the whole record. You could just pay 99 cents and download one song.
Yep.
And then along came damn social media and TikTok and all of these.
And that got us down to like 7 seconds,
Oh, I know. It's absolutely horrible. I mean, And
I think people are a lot smarter than folks give them credit for. I
agree.
I think that you're going to get used to eating what you're fed.
That's right.
And I think if there's more out there that is given to people, that is great, joyous music, they're going to become immersed in it, and they'll be that better off for it, and they'll be more educated.
Well, and when you think about James being 4, this exposure that he's getting, not just to music, but to, albums like Pineapple John, it's going to be so great for the musical part of his brain, but also concentration. You got so many kids with ADD and ADHD now. And I think part of it is because we're raised on all of these little mini clips of lots of information and doom scrolling and screens and all of that. I think it's actually a good brain exercise to just sit down quietly and listen to a whole album.
Yeah, I do too. And it's an exercise. It's a joyous thing. I mean, you can read a book. Why not listen to music? Why not listen to the story of an album? And people still do. I mean, the top selling albums in history are the classic records, from everybody from the Beatles to the Stones to the Elton John records of the 70s. And those records are the ones that still sell the most. Yeah. Those are the ones people love.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, it's nostalgia. And when James is grown, he'll go back to, that'll be his mashed potatoes, right? That'll be his comfort food musically.
Yeah, that's it. It's mine too, still.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Could I just go back for a moment? When we lost you last time, we were talking about your cookbook. What's it called, and where can we get it?
My cookbook is the Cash and Carter Family Cookbook.
Oh, okay.
And you can get it online. It may be in some bookstores out there, but yeah, you can get it on Amazon.
Oh, good.
It's yeah, available. Should be on sites, or definitely the US site.
Well, that has solved your what shall I get Ruth for Christmas
I was
problem.
just thinking of that.
Yeah, it's a fun. I think it's a fun book. I think you'll enjoy it. There's a lot of stories in it. Also, there's a lot of philosophy around the recipes, or recipes around philosophy, maybe.
Well, I'll send you one of mine. I wrote a cookbook. Angie has an organic tea company, and which is our.
This time you froze, so I don't know what that is.
Okay, I'm still talking. I didn't freeze on my end. That's very weird. Can anybody
tell us when we're back?
Yeah, tell us what.
Yeah,
tell
this
us when
time. This time.
Okay.
Yeah, this time you froze, so I don't know. Are you there?
Yeah.
You there?
Yep. I'm still moving. I'm moving and shaking.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm nervous.
Okay, I know, me too. So
your cookbook.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy of my cookbook. Angie has
cool.
a tea company, and I went and researched. It's mainly high tea, afternoon tea, but there are a lot of old Irish, Scottish, and English recipes from the 18th and 19th centuries that are disappearing, and favorites like Cranachan and Scouse and stuff like that. So I'll send one over to the studio, and maybe leaf through that and cook something different.
Yeah, is there a haggis recipe in there?
There certainly is.
There is.
Yeah, you'll have to wear your kilt when you cook that.
Yes, it's
not those things they're wild. I mean, they're out on the moors. They track them down. They hang them up in the barns over the winter. They age the haggis.
Yeah, not for the faint of heart.
No.
What I was going to ask you, John, was when people hear your name, they're probably expecting to just hear straight up country music. But you've been quoted as saying you grew up with calypso and reggae. You were surrounded by it, and you actually played it when you were in Jamaica in your 20s. It's not foreign to you at all, is it? Are people surprised by that?
Yeah, it's not, or rock and roll for that matter. And I think, I never saw there being a limit as to what my musical tastes were going to be. I was really a hard rocker. I mean, that's what I loved the most when I was younger. That's all I listened to was rock and roll when I was in my teen years, in my early 20s. It was only later on that I really got more into country when I started studying it, and got into the Carter family and the country song and whatnot. But I've always had a very diverse palette, and I was in Jamaica. I'd spend hours a day listening to the calypso bands down, and learning the songs, listening to the music. And so there's a few on the album. There's three. There's a couple of covers on the album, but then I did Jamaica Farewell, and then I did one of my favorites, which is the Shame and Scandal. That music has meant a lot to me. And my dad also, my father taught me, Jamaica Farewell. I knew it from him before I knew it from Harry Belafonte. Wow. So
too bad we didn't have iPhones and video cameras back in those days to capture all of that.
Yeah. I know there is some footage of Dad from back then, home video footage, but not a lot. So.
You've said that influences for Pineapple John include the ocean, which is a monstrous part of your life. You have a boat down in Florida, and that you come from a line of seafarers. It's in your blood. So when one thinks of landlocked Tennessee, ocean breezes don't immediately spring to mind. Are you channeling your inner Jimmy Buffett when you're down there? Or?
Oh no, yeah. I did listen to some Jimmy Buffett growing up, but I think this album's not really. Maybe it is got some Jimmy Buffett influence. Some of the more fun stuff. I don't think, but it's as directly as influenced by Jimmy Buffett's records, though. It's more influenced by the Rolling Stones. Not the Rolling Stones for sure, but more influenced by like Pink Floyd and. Then and then the calypso stuff and Harry Belafonte and then and Elton John. There's a lot of influence by those types of artists in there. So.
Angie was the first person to apprise my dear stepbrother Paul of Elton John. She'd seen him on something or heard him on the radio.
I'd heard him on the radio. Paul came to stay with his dad and I at one time, and he said, "Who are you listening to, Ange?" And I said, "Well, there's a new guy on the radio called Elton John. He's got a song called Your Song." Mm-hmm. And he said, "Oh, write that down. I'll have a listen. And of course,
Yeah.
I don't need to tell you anymore.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
We went to a party for
Yeah.
Red Rose Speedway launch down in London
That's right. And Paul had got his office people, to find out.
to invite Elton to the
Yeah,
party.
and he came, and he'd evidently twisted his ankle or broken his ankle or something. And he was walking with a silver-topped cane, I'll always remember. He looked like a sort of Regency dandy. He had a shirt with a cravat, not a ruffle,
Yeah.
A jabot, they called them. It was a frilly thing.
Yeah.
And a velvet jacket.
Right.
He was very shy. I always remember him going to the far end of the room and sitting, because he didn't know anybody. But
Yeah.
sure did. Sure does now.
It was a hell of a jam session at the end of the night, though. You had
Wow.
Alice Cooper got up and sang with David Essex played guitar.
Wow.
Can't remember who was on drums. Elton was on the piano, of course, and Paul and Linda, and I was banging a tambourine. It was quite a fun night.
Wow, isn't that great? What I'd give to be a fly on the wall. There's a few of those things in my life I look back on now.
And you never have a camera with you.
That's just like
Yeah. Well, you almost don't. It's like when you hang it, when you're just around folks that are making music and they just happen to be very famous, you don't necessarily want to bother them or shove a camera in their face because you're family, right? It's not what you do.
Paul and Linda went to Nashville in 1972, and they did, some stuff there. Junior's Farm being one of them. Yep. And
I know it was.
It's very strange that there's a weird connection between us. Your grandmother, Maybelle, because of her stance with the Carter sisters. So for people who don't know, Chet Atkins is, a genius. Was a genius, and back in the studio days. And all of the session players in Nashville were evidently kind of scared of him. They'd heard of him, and nobody wanted him to come to town because they knew he was going to take all the jobs. Yep. But it was John's grandma, Maybelle, when the Grand Ole Opry wanted the Carter sisters, she said, well, you only get the Carter sisters if we can bring our guitar player, Chet Atkins. So, she opened that door for him, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. And, of course, they were afraid he was going to come to town and take over. But he was such a kind and gentle guy. But that's exactly what he did. He came to town and took over.
Right.
And country music became what it is now because of Chet. So.
Yeah. And we got a phone call one night. I was about 12 years old in Liverpool. Phone rang 2:00 in the morning, and it was Paul and Linda from Nashville. And they were in the studio, and my dad had written a song in 1918, the one and only song he ever wrote, called Walking in the Park with Eloise. It was a ragtime sort of jazz instrumental. And Paul, on the fly, just decided he wanted to record it with Chet Atkins and Floyd Kramer.
Wow.
And so he rang, and Ange got my dad out of bed, didn't you? Took him down to the piano because Paul couldn't remember the middle 8 bars.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
So Jim played it, and eventually it turned out to be a single which they recorded and put out as the Country Hams.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
But Chet Atkins wouldn't have been Chet Atkins to be able to play on the one and only song my father wrote in 1918 if your grandmother hadn't opened the door for him.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
And in more recent times, that song got used in a
in a movie
called Ethel and Ernest. Wasn't it?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. That's great. That's a great story.
We went to the Palm Springs Film Festival to see it. I wore my dad's overcoat, and I've still got the ticket in the pocket. And when the characters Ethel and Ernest, it's an animated feature. When they walk into the theater on their first date, on the right there's a little Easter egg poster, and it says, "Tonight, one night only, Jim Mack's band," and that was the name of my father's jazz band.
Isn't that something?
They
That's great.
Yeah.
I know, and then they play the song as featured, but with Chet and Paul and Linda and Floyd.
Yeah.
But there's that weird connection that we've never met in person, but your grandma helped my dad, have a fantastic player on his one and only song. Yeah.
Yeah. My grandmother, of course, Chet Atkins playing really became what it was because of my grandmother. I mean, she was such a broad-reaching musician. I mean, she touched so many people in so many different walks of musicianship.
That's great.
Jerry Garcia lists her as being a great influence, and then just from all different walks of musicianship. She influenced so many people, and she was a very humble mountain woman, but she was also, groundbreaking. She was really the person that defined turned the guitar into a melody instrument,
Yes.
that gave really the first person that had the idea of like, oh, I could play the melody on this instrument. Right.
Instead of just strumming
days,
along, right? It was
in
just a
those days,
rhythm.
it must have been so difficult for women to make their way in the music business.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a woman's thing to do.
Yeah, I know. And they were groundbreaking. The Carter family was. Really in many different ways. They were making records through the 1930s, through the U.S. Depression, when so many people weren't at all. The Carter family kept making music.
Yeah.
Because why? They followed their heart.
They followed their heart. That's it.
Yes.
Their heart.
Yeah. But you also have, it trickles down through the family. You have not only special guests on Pineapple John, but you also have family co-writing and working on this record with you, which must be so satisfying at the end of the day to really have this project as a generational thing with your kids, right?
Yeah. My daughter AB and I sang a song on the album together, Beckoning Melody, and she's a great spirit, and she'd written this lyric, and gave it to me, and we were, I was looking at putting the album together, and I was like, this really fits a place in my album that I was lacking. I needed to have the moment where the character sort of had a redemption, where it made a turnaround, and I needed a pivotal point in the record where things went in a different direction.
Right.
And so that album, that song supplied that. And then, my little daughter, Grace, recorded at the very end of Hole in the Bottom of the Sea, you hear her voice. And my son, Joseph John, is all over the album. And then, and he and I wrote some of the stuff on the album. And then my son, Jack, and I wrote,
it's a total family. You're turning into Sly, never mind Jimmy Buffett, you're turning into Sly Stone. It's a family affair.
Yeah. Well, and my wife, Anna Christina, also is on the album. And I think part of it is they just happen to be family. They're amazingly wonderful, talented people. It's just that they're close, right? Yeah. And so they're the ones that I can reach out to just because they happen to be close, but they're amazingly talented, which helps.
And I think it's osmosis. When we had our chat about the String Revolution and last year's Grammy, Folsom Prison Blues, and then this year's entry, America, from the famous musical. When you're privileged enough to get to record at your studio at Cash Cabin, that all of that magic is kind of seeped into the walls and the wood and the carpet, and I think it's just part of the environment too, isn't it? When you're in that space, you're in a headspace too.
Yeah.
And it's an ingredient, right? I often equate music and cooking because it's all about the ingredients and how you layer them and how you put them together.
Yeah, and and I'd have Janet there. I would have had her anytime, even without the other guys, but having their creative genius in there definitely brought some more spirit to those walls. But I got to give some credence to the power of the cabinet, or the spirit of the energy of music that's there, because it has worked,
Oh God, over and over. Yeah. And it's not a fluke for absolutely.
There's been a lot of great musicians, that have come through those doors, and there's been a lot of great recordings done there. So we'll keep it up.
History is I think we're all becoming acutely aware now in this, blip 20-second world we talked about earlier, that, history is just a huge part of who we are and what shapes us. I'm not sure if our viewers will know the answer to this pop quiz. I know you will, John. But if anybody wants to put in the comments, what do the English poet Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Johnny Cash, June Carter Cash, John's mom and dad, and former Lieutenant Governor Rollins of Delaware have in common? If anybody knows that, they get a Mrs. McCartney's tea gift from us. So it's when I was looking up not just your history, but the family history.
Yeah.
And so do tell. Nobody's answered it yet. And it's timely today because as we speak,
They're probably all going on to ChatGPT.
right?
Yeah.
No, as we speak, it's raining cats and dogs up right above where I'm talking about. So prayers for Jamaica.
Yeah, they've all of those folks were owners or had lived in the house in Cinnamon Hill in Jamaica.
Right.
Yep, that was belonged to my parents for years and years.
And then the Rollinses owned it. Your parents bought it. Then the Rollins clan brought it back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And my parents had it, that bought it. My dad bought it from John Rollins in the early 1970s. And then when my parents passed away, we couldn't keep it up. It would have been too.
Oh, right.
But anyway, so the Rollins family bought it back. And they what's amazing is they've kept it exactly like it was.
Lovely.
The
You were there
pictures are
recently.
still on the wall. The furniture.
How nice.
Yeah. You were there recently, right?
Yeah, you're dancing again. You're going in and out again.
Oh.
But anyway, the house is exactly the same as it was, and so they've honored that and left it the same. Yeah,
That's
it's really something
well,
else.
Let's,
And
let's,
or I would say it was a few weeks ago. I was just down there. I'm just
Oh.
praying. I'm praying for Jamaica right now because
Yes.
this is an unprecedented storm. I mean, there's not been a storm in the history of Jamaica this strong, and right now is when it's happening. So
I know.
it's very much on my mind.
I know. And if you're viewing this back, across the ticker at the bottom are a couple of places where you can help. There's a Carter Cash family favorite charity that certainly will.
The SOS Children's Village is just down the road from where my parents' house was, and my parents would always bring shoes to those that orphanage, and so I know that there's those children there are afraid, and there's no infrastructure. I just read something about how it is in Jamaica right now. There's no infrastructure that can survive a Category 5 in Jamaica.
Wow.
So it's very scary for the
It is
people there.
Well,
Storm surge also some people along the coast, and I just my heart goes out to the people of Jamaica today because I've got dear friends there.
of course. Well, it's
So-
part of your formative years and your childhood. And so for those of you who don't know, Cinnamon Hill is up on the north coast, on the west end of the island, close to Montego Bay and Negril, right?
Yeah, it's east of Montego Bay, just about 5 miles east of Mo Bay. It's just right there. And but yeah, I spent a lot of time growing up there, and just it's going to be a lot of folks lose their homes, a lot of devastation in Jamaica.
Yeah. Well, praying for them, and anybody who's watching this, there across the bottom, you can know how to help and where to help. And speaking of how to, where can people find you and Pineapple John?
If you go to johncartercash.com, you can find the album Pineapple John. I am signing every album that I sell off my website.
Great.
And so I just signed a bunch of them the other day, and I'm ready to keep signing. So if anybody wants to buy a Pineapple John album from my website, I will sign it. They're also available on Amazon. They're available online. They're available on at record stores.
Of course.
And of course, you can also download it on Spotify or
iTunes, Amazon.
all that. Yeah, and I've not put out a whole lot of music myself in my life, but what I have put out, I'm very attached to with my heart. So I hope you guys out there listening. Once you do listen to Pineapple John, I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, I just absolutely love it. I've been listening to it all weekend while I was getting ready for this interview. And again, I just love the fact that you've created this character and got back to the narrative so that we can just, as grown-ups, sit and listen to the whole dang thing. And it's continuity. It makes sense.
Yeah, cool. Well,
It's
good.
absolutely fantastic. So what you don't know, John, about this lady, she has a book out called Mrs. McCartney's Liverpool Limericks and Other Random Irish Haikus.
I love it. Yeah, no, you mentioned this one I was on with the String Revolution.
There you go.
Yeah,
So
that's right,
she put pen to paper. So if you're sitting comfortably while you nibble your lunch, we won't sing you out because we love you. We're not going to sing to you, but we'll recite our little limerick. And thank you so much once again for being our guest. You guys can find Pineapple John and John Carter Cash at johncartercash.com. And I hope you'll go over there and get his album and join his VIP list and all of those good things.
And donate.
And donate to Jamaica. Yep. The SOS Children's Village or the Red Cross or World Central Kitchen went in yesterday. They're already set up, ready to feed people. So that's fantastic. So if you are sitting comfortably, then we shall do your limerick, sir.
All right. I'm excited.
Yes. 1, 2, 3. Big thanks to our talented guest. His family is simply the best. The mysteries unfold and histories told of John's Pineapple Musical Quest.
Ta-da!
I love it. Thank you.
I will email
right.
that. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, yes, certainly.
Everybody run out and buy 5 copies of Pineapple John, and then you've got your Christmas problem solved.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
Pleasure.
kids. We'll
Thanks,
see you all of a
John.
sudden.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.